Right, just stay behind the hills and I should be fine. I can pop up and shoot to my heart content and they can't hit me back. So, oh crikey, right, okay. Quick, get behind the hills again. Turn, 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 turn. Right, here we go. Oh, bugger, there it is. Quick, get down behind the hills, blimey. As the rookie pilot of the squadron, I had drawn the short straw, being sent up to babysit a pair of bombers on a preemptive strike mission. I was quite happy, if I'm honest. These were the sort of missions where one gained valuable experience. Obviously, having missed the opening bouts of the war, I had not seen any action yet, but all of my squadron had, and so I had been chosen for this mission. And the mission in this case was to escort the bombers so that they could destroy a whole battery of Strata-Lance launchers, long-range radar-guided anti-aircraft systems. And in this case, this battery were being put in place to defend the cultural capital of the Primitive state, the city of Agapor, so recently raided in an air landing assault by our own forces in a brilliant anti-terrorist operation. But these Strata-Lance launchers didn't yet have the all-important radar to guide their weapons. Of course, these radars were very intricate pieces of kit and difficult to produce. There were not many of them available, and the two radars assigned to this new anti-aircraft weapons site had not yet arrived at this location. Most of the mission was fairly boring. I simply flew alongside the bombers, keeping my eyes peeled for enemy fighters, and at last we detected two enemy aircraft, crickets. Not much of a threat, but they might well report on our position. I quickly pickled off two Scythe anti-air radar guided missiles very quickly in order to bring these aircraft down before they could get a detailed report off on our position and our heading. And though these planes did not possess a radar, they did have a very good RWR, and they would know that they had been locked on and engaged. But before they could hope to take evasive action or get a detailed report off, both aircraft were struck by my missiles and destroyed. My first two kills as a member of the squadron. The bombers had now pulled up above the cloud layer in preparation for their bombing run, and at last I heard the immortal words, "Bombs released," over the radio net. With that, the two bombers turned hard to starboard, and I flew lazily with them, coming round, turning back towards the north, and home. Mission accomplished, right? Not quite. We still had to get home safely and back into within the envelope of our own air defense network. As for the target, well, the bombs hit true, right on the nose, perfectly aimed, completely obliterating the anti-air defense site, and we were later told that the attack caused a huge amount of panic in Agapor City. That's understandable. Windows and doors were blown out from buildings across the town. Car alarms were set wailing, as what is perhaps best described as a mini earthquake rippled through the city. As we made our return journey north, our aircraft began to get painted by who knows how many radar sites all across the horizon, and our high-flying Medusa electronic warfare aircraft acting as an AWACS detected enemy aircraft taken off from Sandrift Airbase. It was extremely important that I did not let them get weapons onto our bombers. But at the same time, I also knew that if I fired missiles to engage these aircraft while they were still deep within their own territory, their anti-aircraft defense systems would likely shoot down my missiles before they could hit the targets. And so I had to wait for just the right moment. A pair of compasses locked up, I fired with a pair of Scythe missiles. I noticed they had already shot their weapons off towards the bombers. Darkreach bombers are more than capable of defending themselves against incoming missiles, as long as they are not overwhelmed by the number of missiles coming their way. Another target popped up on my scope, a fellow Revoker. This was, of course, far more dangerous than the compass. I looked it up, fired off a missile and quickly turned away, preempting a missile coming back in my direction. I was able to notch the missile and use my radar jammer, plus the nearby terrain, to break the lock of this missile. The enemy Revoker, however, was not so fortunate. My missile struck true, destroying it in the air. Another had taken off, its wingman. This would be my next priority target. My plan now was to use the terrain, the hills, etc. near to Port Maris. I didn't much like the idea of pulling enemy aircraft towards my own capital city, but I could not hope to take on 3 aircraft alone on their own terms, and so I wanted to use a terrain that I knew well to defeat their radars and weapon locks. There was of course also the chance that my comrades in the BDF manning air defense systems or even manning ships in the Sound might also open fire on the enemy aircraft if I was unable to bring them down. Coming back around, I relocked the Revoker and fired off yet another missile, turning away quickly as a missile came back my way. Once again, the terrain defeated the lock. But once again, my enemy was not so lucky. I now had 4 kills to my name, and I can imagine the look on my squadron mates' faces when they realised that they had missed the opportunity to rack up their scores by sending me, the new guy, on this mission. Now out of Scythe missiles, I turned to my S3s, turning to engage the 2 compasses who were hellbent on chasing after our bombers. And once again, not having radars of their own, they had lost track of me behind the mountains. And this, of course, was their undoing, as both my heat-seeking missiles destroyed the targets. 6 kills and a quick victory roll over Port Maris to celebrate. It was time to head home. My own mission was not yet complete. Of course it wouldn't be until a friendly combat air patrol had taken off and I had landed safely. But reaching North Boscali Air Base, I took a moment to circuit round the airfield as new friendly aircraft took to the skies. One Darkreach taken off on a ferry flight to the Ignis Archipelago, and at last, a combat air patrol Revoker taking off to cover the air to the south to ensure the enemy did not try a retaliatory strike. With that, I loaded my landing gear and prepared to land. Mission accomplished.